Subject is unaware test has started. Subject is alone for the moment, unaffected by surrounding noises. Subject nervously scratches at its head. It seems to believe that this will somehow better its situation, bring itself to ease. Subject brushes its hair out of its eyes. Subject has been awake for several hours now and struggles to maintain consciousness. Subject often rises on its own, in a certain disharmony with those around it. It finds itself awake while others have been long asleep, and experiences tiredness while others are full of energy. Subject is functional but irregular. It will begrudgingly drag itself to its day's tasks, taking no pride or pleasure in doing so. Subject frequently experiences abnormal sensations, seemingly random pains in the back, constant soreness, the inability to breathe, inability to cry. Subject dismisses these patterns as a result of its clinically overactive imagination. Subject will not communicate with those around it. Subject invents ideas, moods, feelings, and dreams. Subject often indulges in these at the expense of the task at hand and the well-spent attention of others. Subject is fully content to waste time and eschew productivity sheerly to immerse itself in these sensations of familiarity. Subject wanders aimlessly for days on end, blind, delirious, in search of comfort, averse to reason, and obsessed with pleasure. Subject knows that it cannot escape.
Feel great.
Stumble to the bathroom. Better take some Advil. It takes 26 muscles to smile. Press your face up against the glass. It's cool to the touch and feels good against the piping hot sweat that accumulated on your brow overnight. Your eyes begin to adjust. This is, without a doubt, the exact same house you've been falling asleep and waking up in for some time now. But today, it somehow feels different. It's like you're just now seeing the house for the first time. You step back into the hall, which is noticeably longer than the one you walked down last night, just before you retired. In fact, the whole house seems to go on forever. You scratch your head. It's as though your brain is wired completely different than it was last night when you crashed headlong into your sheets. Right on schedule. Normally tired. Tiredly normal. You see things for what they are, rather than what you've become so used to. You discover you can touch things again as though it were the first time you had ever touched them. And your vision is painted in brighter and more vivid colors than you can even remember seeing. You are well awake now. You throw clothes onto your back. You can't remember the last time you consciously thought about how good the clothes felt as they brushed against your skin. You've decided to make the most of this strange feeling that has befallen you today. It's not like you had anything else to do. You've decided that you'll first comb the house for old sensations made new, a task which, once completed, you will extend to the world around it. You cannot contain your excitement, even as a tiny voice in your head tries to remind you that this strange sensation may not continue to be as pleasant or as fulfilling as it has been so far, and that you still ought to be wary that the things that make some men wise drive others mad. Wake up.
If your mouth stays open, then you'll never hear a thing. But why would you want to know? But they all think you want to keep another awake, so they don't have to show you. If you feel love comes at the price of rolling the dice, you better think about how long are we alive for? The second you stretch for the summer driver. I can't help it when the songs are right and up in somebody else's life. It's not like they're listening that hard. Every sentence more absurd, my thoughts get burned, my soul with words unheard. Yet with disregard. Online we all look happy and our pictures, can't you tell? It's the gratification in a bubble, yeah. Life was working out so well, we were getting complacent. It's not so hard, yeah, I can always hide within my skin. Might get out of self-regard. I can't help it when the songs are running up in somebody else's life. It's not like they're listening that hard. Every sentence more absurd, my thoughts get blurred, my song with words unheard. Met with disregard. I just sing the words I wrote and just wanna get them all out of my throat. Sometimes it gets out of control. Paragraphs get left unsaid. The only time you'll see what goes on in my head is when you look down the bullet hole. This means swallows, this swallows out in my heart gets so hollow. Where'd I get so cold? Oh, I don't mind. You close your eyes and hit the floor. Nothing feels good anymore. The paper cuts, the nightly news. All the screws are coming loose. As if it wasn't bad enough, you go to sleep to wake back up. Whisper the words, don't shed a tear. You play the songs they wanna hear. You say you're fine. If you don't leave, they'll spoil the party. Stop apologizing, sorry. Live in your head, you won't be found. Get to your room,
a study in the difference between a puddle and an ocean, only to conclude that you will never quite dry off. To turn up the music in vague hopes that it will sound better, only to realize that it hasn't sounded as good as it used to for some years now. To gaze up at the skies in constant search for proof that you are at the absolute center of the universe, developing a pain in your neck, alleviated only by several hours spent staring down at your phone. Pay close attention to what you see reflected in these eyes, for these eyes have glimpsed hell. Loneliness is defined in the Oxford English Dictionary as sadness because one has no friends or company. And while they're not wrong, strictly speaking, they affirm the consequent with little regard for exception. I saw miles of touchless skin, stretched thinner and thinner across the collective psyche, the low-pressure fountain of untapped youthful bitterness, looking ever softer in the evening sun. I saw eyes darting anxiously, mouths hyperventilating, pupils dilating, sunglasses adorned.
Get on your knees, do as you please. You're carrier of my disease. Selective permeation, diarrhea. I won't relax, I won't take back. Won't be the toughest egg to crack. Give me some information.
I saw thousands languishing in pure ecstasy as they grappled with their bodies, one another's bodies, so desperate to get it what was locked away in the other's mind, only to met with the cold glassiness, the shower curtain, and in solitude they hunger. The fingers prowl through a wilderness of filtered faces, looking fiercely for their next fate. Bleed and get attached. What else is there to do? I swear on my life, if there's a war between the sexes, I think we all just lost.
Get on your knees, do as you please. You're carrier of my disease. Selective permeation, diarrhea. I won't relax, I won't take back. Won't be the toughest egg to crack. Give me some information.
I hear they've designed a computer that's even better at recognizing love than we are. And meanwhile, we must ask ourselves, could it be planned that we must wander aimlessly in our thoughts forever? A bunch of silly trained monkeys and in the search of stimulation. Stimulation. Arousal. Arousal. Climax. After a while, my head became too full to fit on paper. I developed severe headaches, which led to backaches and stomach aches, and pretty much any other sort of ache you could imagine. I would walk in agony to my day's tasks, nervous and tense, about ready to explode. Eventually, it became too unbearable to ignore. I tried to write it all down quicker, but the more I typed, the clearer I thought, and the quicker the new thoughts would appear and fill what little room I had left. I would spend hours awake in bed, groaning under the weight of it all. The doctors were baffled. They had never encountered a case quite like my own. Their faces were of stern repudiation as I described the symptoms. It creeps up so quickly, stealthily, and then it cuts like a knife. Like a poison so foul that doesn't take your life, but rather makes it so miserable you almost wish it did. They recommended me to more doctors, who also weren't sure what to do. Nothing seemed to work. I began to wonder if it all might just be very literally in my head. If this was just what the rest of my days looked like, and if I should just cease my endless complaints and get used to it. I dwelled not long on that thought, because before too long, the ache returned yet again.
Modern medicine is killing me. They removed me from myself surgically. I don't mind the bleakness. It's the sickest kind of sweetness. That is, if I could taste or smell. And it's, hey, don't you know, flower needs sunlight to grow, gets taller by the inch. I hear them coming, I still can't help but flinch. The tip of the syringe, fingerprint. Modern medicine is killing me. If you could call this living, it's guaranteed. I get a mouthful of scar tissue when I lean in to kiss you. It still tastes better than the numbness in my mouth. And it's, hey, can't believe flowers got it so easy. It doesn't seem right. Can't see a thing, but I can think just fine at night. It's still too bright. Turn out the light.
And man did heave a mighty sigh as he delivered that last crack of the whip, the last tug of the tail as he tamed his environment. He found the food he ate too cumbersome to collect and far too scarce to provide sufficient nourishment. So he began to grow his own to increasingly exact specifications. He found the sun's warmth to be inconsistent, and he could not bear the thought of relying on anyone else to keep him warm. So he discovered fire, bottled it, and installed it into every home that could afford it. He grew tired of the caves in which he dwelt, so he built his own lodgings, all the while scolding nature for not getting it right the first time. He found the ground he walked to be unsuitable, so he built roads and pathways. As his world grew larger, he grappled with the distance, demanding to be carried. He tamed animals, enslaved machinery, and parted the waters. He found himself being asked questions about the way the world worked, and rather than admit he didn't know yet, he invented the very act of lying. In recent years, he constantly crafted new idols to worship, a compensatory measure for several thousand years spent praying to the wrong gods entirely. He was fearful of the world belonging to anyone but him. That which he had worked so hard to control might slip from his hands at any second. He created all these ideas about how we see ourselves, how we see each other. He created fear, insecurity, division, conflict, disharmony. He invented this idea that all of this, all that we have, is progress. And to step away from it, to even question it, would be a disastrous regression to our way of life. He wrote history, painting himself the unlikely hero who rose up against all obstacles, armed only with his own superior intellect, a term of his own coinage, to conquer the world. To improve upon it, a task nature could never have done alone. And when his work was finally finished, he looked upon his creation, as displeased as ever. He realized that the life he had built for himself was ultimately unfulfilling, and so he gathered the things that gave him immediate pleasure en masse, delighting in them wherever and whenever he could. Until he perished, forgetting to feed himself, and eventually languishing in the very loneliness and isolation he had unwittingly made it easier and easier for himself to live in, and leaving nature herself, as always, to clean up the mess.
You'll find more than gold beneath the rainbow. She's fixing her hair in the train window. And if you give someone a flower, you can make them smile. She smiles backwards, her silence a wail. Gravity tugs at her ponytail. She looks away, won't take her finger off the dial. And it's oh no, don't cry. You'll see better when your eyes are dry. Don't go, goodbye. Violet stains the back of my eyes, and the knife twists again in my back when she cries. She's riding waves, invisible light, indigo violet. She can sleep at night, and if you give someone a flower, you can do no wrong. Spends her away a flower dies.
The paint on the wall has long since faded, as the years have passed without a second look. All the floorboards feel like 1,000 needles, each sharper than the next. You're alone. You live here. The television sputters on and off, displaying the finest static basic cable can offer. In the driveway, there's a heap of pipes, fire, and somewhat melted duct tape that will take you anywhere you want to go. But you'll always end up back here. You live here. Outside, the sky is the color of rusted copper, buffered by the clouds. The faded amber sunset gives way to the dark gray corridor of night. The streets are a hypnotic blur of passing cars. No one knows where they're going. Everyone's in a hurry. You don't go outside much anymore. You don't have anywhere you'd rather be. You live here. In your room, nothing hangs on the cracking plaster walls. The desk you sit at is so covered with loose paper it's hard to tell it's a desk at all. Can't even see your computer anymore. Your closest friend. Your bed is made of broken glass and all your sheets are frozen solid. You sleep here. You dream here. You live here. You step outside. The lights all burn the city smog to a crisp. The wind is flying through your hair, getting into your eyes. Across the street, a group of kids are playing on the sidewalk, hitting one another with sticks. Next door, college kids are smoking and idling lazily in the front yard, howling drunk into the night, expletives too multisyllabic and scholarly for the kids to understand. There used to be trees here, but they cut them down to make room for more power lines, more information, less unused space. Sirens are blaring in the distance. You put your earphones in. You put your earphones in and bob your head to music no one else can hear. You live here. You will die here. There's nothing in between. Some days you wonder if you should have eschewed this half-fullness of a life for that 5 minutes of the purest, most insatiable joy. Other days you celebrate a week without a cigarette with a nice long smoke. There are days when you wish you were in love, and days you wish you weren't. Presently you're sure that anything you could do with your time would easily beat the hours you waste each day, gazing burningly into countless images of the beautiful, non-existently euphoric life you'll never have. But you couldn't bear to stop. Back inside, the TV is spewing 50 dead, sailing, the lowest it's ever been, something in the water, still haven't done anything. You check your phone. Nothing. You check your phone again. So insecure. You start and end each day like this. You feel like a chain smoker. The TV is trying to sell you pills now, to take your mind off things. You live here. And you're dying to get out. Even if it means slipping, only to fall for miles and miles into a sedate, gorgeous, and unending daydream.
Shove it out of frame now until it's gone. It doesn't feel so wrong. Yeah, it's okay. You shouldn't be ashamed now. You wanna disappear, pretend that you're not here. So you just don't pay attention. Pay attention. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Pay attention to me. Wake up, it's all a dream.
And so I descended further underground on a summer's day in February. I heard the sound of machinery before the light had even escaped my glimpse. Etched into the marble was a string of words. I rotated 180 degrees as I stood on the leisurely declining escalator, trying to catch each one before I was plunged into true darkness and artificial light. Some are so young, some suffer so much, it read. I thought of these words as I stood on the platform, waiting to get somewhere. 20 minutes later, I was on the train and well above ground, nearly at my destination. We rode past another train, stopped on the tracks. I would have dismissed it as perfectly ordinary as per the train service of the day, had the cars not gleamed as they did, despite being so old and faded. To make the thing even stranger, there was barely any sun that day. I looked down at the track the otherworldly vessel stood upon, expecting to see nothing of further interest. But what I saw shook me even more than the words in the marble. The wheels rotated like madness, but the train did not budge. Thereafter, the image and the words I had seen haunted me in everything I did. Some are so young, some suffer so much. Under the microscope, they've studied her to death, yeah. Through the lens, upon the nose, glasses fogged with breath, yeah. And there's love made in a test tube that you probably shouldn't spill. Tears shed in a restroom, time to kill. The water hits the shower curtain as they hold each other near.
with every moment of her life. And while his arms still hold her, she dreams of the night. And she holds the camera steady, tap to focus, turn off flash. Hates how it looks already. She's having such a blast. She looks through the glass. Every morning she walks to class, books held at her side, yeah. She's like a ship without a mast, torn apart by the tide, yeah. And somewhere in her ocean there's a treasure buried deep. There's a heart locked in her chest, yeah. Lost the key. And she could scroll forever through her pictures of the past, takes off some of the pressure, but she doubts that it'll last. She looks through the glass.
It is 6 miles back to the town you live in. You have spent the better part of the last hour waiting for a bus that doesn't run this late, and it has just dawned on you that you will have to walk the whole way back. It is still summer and the sidewalk is a warm concrete shade of tan, familiar and comfortable in the evening light, but the hypnotic suburban dusk approaches fast as you continue on your way. George Avenue goes on forever. We can only hope to ever glimpse but a fraction, and you can only hope to reach your home before sunrise. It is dark now. Neurotic flickering street lamps illuminate the path before you as the sidewalk stretches ahead, hiding behind the curvature of the earth. Tile by tile, step by step. Trees loom overhead like the watchfully judgmental fingers of God, as all the stars try to burn holes in the desolate steam that wafts north from the city. And the occasional car headlights appear over the hills and seem to approach faster the closer they get, only to then in a flash disappear back into the starless oblivion of hindsight, back to where you came from, as though chasing the setting sun, seeking even the faintest extension of the day most have already left behind. You are wearing jeans and sweating profusely in even the relative warmth of the late summer night. You see a park and decide to rest. You'll be safe here for a while, you think, as the grass is crushed by your lumbering, tired feet. You find sanctum on a bench, looking back onto the road. You open your phone. Still nothing. Not even the vaguest simulation of company. The moon is waxing, its face still visible, laughing or crying depending on the eyes that look upon it. You gaze back at the road, at the houses lining the sides of it, as their lights turn off one by one, and the world becomes blacker and emptier with each passing minute. There will be little to no light for the next 7 hours, and certainly few others who tread the earth in darkness. You stand. It is time to keep going.
doesn't make it comfortable, and you're holding on to every breath, while the load gets heavier with every step. Don't forget. When it rains and you're soaked through to the bone, when you call and they leave you to the dial tone, when you're sure that it can't be over yet, and the load gets heavier with every step, don't you fret. When your heart's something to get rid of, you fall in love and realize you can't get up. When you think there surely can be nothing left, but then the load gets heavier with every step. Don't break a sweat. When you speak and the words just don't make sense, every game seems at your own expense. Take a walk so you don't feel such a mess, and the load gets heavier with every step, 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 and the load gets heavier with every step. Don't hold your breath.
If you haven't already gathered, here it spins a little fast for me. I'm starting to think you have the same problem. Then we stared aimlessly out of unwashed windows, sitting in endless rows and columns, as our heads were filled at one end and emptied at the other. The years passed, exponentially shorter. We saw things in 3 monochrome colors that those before did not. We heard the words in stereo pressed against our ears. We saw the faceless bodies in shop windows that we were supposed to believe were beautiful. America is so pleasantly numbing. We heard the money change hands, behind every song the radio played and between the endless chatter of the disembodied. And in every dream we could jump high enough to catch some of it for ourselves. Here is where you and I start to differ. For I would rather fail 1,000 times than get it right on the first try.
Wake up, it's time for breakfast. To die in excess, to live so numb. That's enough, can't see the exit. Was independent, still sucking thumb. 'Cause I was born after 1995. Too old to be called living, but still too young to die. Didn't forget the promise, but starting to wonder why. Why's it taking so long? Complain, it's just not helping. It's overwhelming, I'm full of doubt. My pain, bottle and salad. Can't be so selfish, can't live without. My phone, my best friend, my artificially Mother Nature's first mistake. 'Cause I was born after 1995, old enough to be a failure, young enough to not know why. Did everything they told me, where did I go awry? And why is it taking so long? Why is it taking so long?
Eventually you start to wonder if the truth really has to make sense. If lies are, by nature, truly untrue. If dying from asphyxiation is anywhere near as bad as living with it. If believing yourself sane is to have succumbed to the greatest madness of all. Meanwhile, you certainly notice things have changed. You don't rise so effortlessly anymore. The space between the train and the platform gets wider every day. You can only really care in the most passive, nondescript way you know how. And indifference is so routine that it's acceptable, even preferential. This in mind, you start to piece together your own version of the truth. One of pure nonsense to the external observer, but one that will govern your troubled head well enough that you appear composed. We keep ourselves entertained. We seek sustenance and familiarity. If we are doomed to traverse the vast, extravagant corridors of shopping malls until the day we die, so be it. At least our days will be full of neon-induced blindness, indistinct conversation, and refined sugar. You fall in love with your newfound self-disgust. It takes only a moment, and you're among friends. There are things for you to react to excite you, and everyone remembers your birthday. You feel so perfectly at home amongst 746 faces that you don't even recognize. The truth of it becomes so apparent. We feel at ease, suffocating in a plastic bag. We are so content with our brisk, leisurely commute towards ecstasy, and we are all so comfortable drowning in 2 feet of water. Wake up.
There's blood on your phone screen. You wonder what it's seen now. You're in bed, it's past now. Maybe you'll forget it soon. No paper on Sunday. You're breathing in bug spray blue. The faucet is leaking. Sounds like it's shrieking, so you throw back your head and maybe they'll notice. Hope they think you're not hopeless now. There's blood on the pavement. Do you think they'll ignore that too? Caffeine till you'll wake up. Codeine till you won't wake up. Feeling the carpet. Everything goes dark, and so you open your mouth and scream.
Watch your life flash by on the screen. Criticize the plot. Cringe at the bad dialogue. Fast forward through the sad parts and leave at the end. I saw everything I had ever loved, everything I had ever held dear, drenched in gasoline, and a lit match spiraling above, falling ever closer in slow motion. I felt every vein in my body rupture, and yet not an ounce of pain. But now I must go. I must drift off into a dream, to a place where I seek no momentary escape, where things are related in a manner that is not so abstract and inconsequential, where I needn't abandon my wit in stanzas of tameless fury, where we need not resort to found metaphors and non-motile autotrophs, where the years go by gently. We no longer judge fish by their ability to climb trees, to a place where we don't reward rigid ideology to the point that it becomes a grotesque, untamable madness, where we hate not but hate itself, where our desire for immediate pleasure and need for lasting stability do not intersect so, where the tangible things that we fill our lives with do not become our sole reason for living, where history is not so tangled and twisted in broken nucleotide bonds, where our bodies and our minds can join in relative symbiosis. I'll be happy there, until I wake up.
You are ahead on somebody's body, twisting and nodding. You're better off dead, easily forgotten. Might as well not have been there at all. And I remember when you asked me what this song was about, and I said nothing, 'cause that's all I meant to you. I guess it's true, I suppose I have a type, deep a shade of blue, with a jealous stripe. I'm painted white, I'm your bedroom wall. And I remember how we talked about the stars in the night sky. We wondered if we'd get to them before any of them died. We'd be dead before we got there, but at least we would have tried to leave the surface. You never get ahead, at least that's what it feels like. You'll never get it right, oh, but instead you'll make a big mess, 'cause we'd swallow anything but your pride. I remember how you looked at me when I said I didn't wanna leave. Couldn't imagine that I'd wanna stay with you. A fly on the wall, escape detection, love and perfection. I wish you just knew I could give you a call. If you just picked up, I could rip you apart. And I hope you're feeling better now, on the other side of the shutters. You're a prism that a light shines through and spills out many colors. And everybody dies, one way or another, on the surface. Ooh. I'm a voice on a recording. Are you listening?